Hello, YouTubers and all what's happening. Watch, hope you all doing quite well. I'm a neckbeard, so you don't have to be. So, I hope you guys are all doing quite well today. So, today's video is going to be covering the game right here, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wind. Now, this game was hyped to the freaking moon because of what we've seen of it, what little bits and pieces we've seen from Nintendo, the little teasing bits that so many folks at Nintendo decided to do for us, and finally it came out a little while ago. I was a little bit of a late bloomer towards it, but I ended up picking up the game itself. I ended up picking it up, buying it on Wii U, ended up getting the Wii U console, and playing it on the said system. Now, with that said, I cannot discredit the Nintendo Switch for playing the game, so this isn't me saying this system particularly can play it better, you know, whatever. It's just me stating my opinion based off this core console. So with that said, how and what do I think of this said game? Now, let's break down the story. I'm going to be very vague as possible. I'm not going to go into too much detail other than what they mention on the back of the box of the game, as well as what I know from the game. Now, Link and 4 other champions, including Princess Zelda herself, all adventure out to go do something. Now, I'm saying something because, again, I'm trying to be as vague as possible with the story. I'm not trying to say too much other than there's 4 champions, henceforth 4 dungeons. Now, I have to, unfortunately, talk about those said dungeons and go a little bit into those. I'm not going to say too much about them other than they're themed off of elements. But I'll get into that in a moment. So, alright. Now, this game has a lot of greatness to it in terms of just being a quality game. You know, I can't really badmouth it other than saying a few negative critiques about it, which kind of irk me, but then I also understand the principle behind it, which it makes sense of what they're trying to do with this whole game, but there's still a little bit, tiny bit overkill versus what you're trying to do in this said game. Now, alright, first things first, you waking up as Link. Now, they actually call him Link in the game. There's no, hey, name your character here. Just straight up, hey, guess what, your name is Link. You're actually playing as Link, a descendant from many characters ago. They actually mention this throughout the entire game, so basically you are Link, you wake up in a pool of water, liquid, and you basically adventure the world. That's the summary of it. Now, the game itself allows you to just be open and explore and do whatever the hell you wish to do. Now, you can explore the game in any which way you wish to, with some survival elements applied to it. Now, there's obviously requirements for certain areas you need to be in, like you need to bundle up and wear warm clothing, so there's certain pieces of gear you specifically wear, or liquids you would drink to sustain warmth, or to allocate cool down your body, like a bottle of Gatorade in Hyrule, basically. So the game is based off of the actual world of Hyrule. There's a story about a character, the great big evil named Calamity Ganon, which you're supposed to go and defeat. Now, it's always a Ganon in Zelda, so again, I'm not really spoiling too much for you. Other than, oh, you already spoiled it for me. That's, you know, it's like, psst, in the back of the box. So, yeah, you're going after this big grand evil. You need to help out Zelda. That's generally how every Zelda game is. It's the same kind of story, but it's told in a... You can approach it any way you want. You can uncover as much of the story as you want, because Link has amnesia, so you're basically required to go out through the entire world and recover all this stuff. And again, this is all in the beginning of the game, so you'll pretty much see this right off the bat. No flash photography here. So with that said, now you wonder, okay, so you said something about survival. Go into that, please. So, alright, now the story of that is, in real life, if you were to say, for example, be in this world of Hyrule, and you happen to have all these weapons are usually pretty frail off the bat. and don't survive you very long, so you have to acquire as many weapons as possible throughout the experience, but you're also limited to how many weapons you can have for said experience. So with that said, the game basically scales you into pick and choose your battles carefully, approach every enemy carefully, you know, just pretty much plan. So it's a survival elements to this, and it's sort of like Dark Souls in that sense, because if you don't plan carefully or you don't have enough food or whatever else, because they took out potions just about out of the game. I'm saying just about because they still have elixirs, which allow you to have like status buffs and all that, but now they replaced potions themselves necessarily with foods. Different foods have different abilities. You make these foods up to 5 items or so, and you basically make these own little recipes of your own, or ones you think of and can look out throughout the entire world. And so therefore you can make like potions to help give you extra attack, extra defense, that kind of thing. Now the game itself, to me, reminds me a lot of what if Zelda and Oblivion or Skyrim had a baby. And that would generally be the whole nutshell of the game. It's like they pretty much were playing a lot of Skyrim over at Nintendo, and they're like, hey, let's just make a Skyrim game with Link in it. And they're like, okay, let's go to lunch. And that's the summary of Breath of the Wind. You know, that's how it is. There's no wrong way to play the game, you just play it carefully. Because the game is pretty hard at first, and then after a while you start getting used to it, you start, you know, getting used to the controls and everything, you begin to get really much better at it, and you just become more adept and used to the controls, the combat, and the flying around and all that. And which the whole theme of the game is basically you're given a paraglider, which is a thing you go around in, and you basically float around and find air currents through certain areas, and you go explore and climb up different mountains and watch out for lava, you know, water hazards, general hazards, enemies. The whole list goes on for that. So you basically dive in and dodge in half of that. The characters and all the story and all that are really well done, I thought. The characters had really good orchestrated interaction with Link. All, of course, very similar to one another, though, but they're all done in their own unique theme, you know, so it isn't so bad. The dungeons in this game were actually really stellar, because the whole game takes the puzzle mechanics of like that of like Fallout, games like Portal 2, all that, and they take it and they put it into this game for the dungeons. So solving dungeons are basically one gigantic fucking puzzle. So you're required to use your noggin and try to solve this said puzzle, which is all these bits and pieces here, which you have to do that. And the puzzles, where they scale from being kind of tricky to solve to being kind of simplistic and very, very straightforward, it's just really well done, even if they're done simply. I mean, there's so many dungeons in this, or little shrines you can find throughout the entire world as well, which are all little mini puzzles, or medium-sized puzzles, which are basically physics-based, they're logic-based, and for the most part, you know, it requires a lot of concentration, a lot of focus, timing, and all that. It's really, again, excellent stuff. Like, I thought the puzzles are really well thought out. And I'm halfway done through all the puzzles. Like, I've gotten through half of the number of them, and I'm still going. I want to find more and do more. You know, if you can make a game where you set the puzzles down, where you just makes the player want to keep on going and find every single one of them, you got yourself a AAA title right there, or a AAA experience. You know, I found that the puzzles were the best feature in the game by far, because the physics are really clever. The storytelling was damn good. Like, I can't complain against the story, because it's just too well done to be, like, I can't hate it at all. Like, I actually enjoyed it. The weapons over time, like the combat, it's pretty darn good too. It's nice, it's comfortable. For the majority of the game, I've been using the said Wii U controller, which is a big hefty touchscreen thing over there that I just picked up earlier and showed you. And that's all I've been using for the console or for the said game. I don't have the Wii U Pro controller. I don't have any of that. Now, I'd love to personally use that to play this darn game, but I do not own that. And I want to go over something here which I thought was quite interesting and one of my negative vibes towards this said game. Now, for every game that is absolutely stellar, there always is a complication or some negative vibes towards it, no matter what. Because everyone can say this game is perfection, well, it does have some really damn good things about it, where a lot of the positives outweigh the couple of the critiques or the negatives. That's just it. I mean, there's always, games are never going to be perfect. There's always going to be some things that kind of suck, but are mostly disappointing in this case. Now, I was mentioning the durability thing. Now, again, the durability thing, I can kind of get over it, but it was a sort of a thing where I think it was kind of scaled weird or kind of stupidly, where they could have adjusted that a little bit more so the weapons last a little bit longer than what they're actually prescribing it to be. I mean, weapons themselves, after near late end game, yeah, they last a little bit longer because there's different build or durability qualities. There's very weak, medium, and, you know, indestructible. Like, there's indestructible weapons in the game, but I'm not going to go into who and what and why with those. So, when it comes to the said game itself, I mean, I sit here today and tomorrow and probably the next couple days, and then I still come back to it and want to explore more of it. So, with that said, I usually use junk weapons in the game, as I nicknamed them. Moth wants to make a cameo. And basically what happens with that is you basically have, you know, great handling weapons. They have a lot of damage to them, but then they break so darn easily because you just get excited because you use this powerful weapon. So it comes to that whole survivability complex. But for the most part, I found that the said durability thing is more of a bane and is a benefit towards the survivability. I mean, I understand they were trying to add to that, make it more challenging and make you think carefully of what you use for weapons, but honestly it wasn't, I didn't really care for how the balance was for that at all. Like, it wasn't as ingenious as it was thought out to be. I mean, it's not the end of the world because it's there, it's just kind of, it's not as fun, I think. The next thing was the horses in this game. Now, you can use horses, you can tame different horses, and if you have some amiibos, which the game has some full amiibo support, where if you use a certain amiibo or two, you can actually get some items from that, and, you know, get, you know, food basically to craft to make whatever, which it helps. So they basically made it so all the Legend of Zelda toys, or the amiibos, all have use for the said game here, which I have Link and Princess Zelda, which I'm not taking Princess Zelda out of the box. She's staying exactly where she is. I'm not taking her out of that box. Because the box for this guy was damaged. I said, screw it, I'm just taking him out of the box. But, yeah, they basically allow you to have certain themed outfits for Link as well, because you don't stick with the typical tunic in this game. There's several different outfits. So, anyway, so I ended up unlocking Emponia from Ocarina of Time and wherever else. And I was excited like pigs and shit. I was like, yeah, you know, just happy about that. But then I realized I never use her or use any of the horses. Now, this is different for every person, obviously. It's sort of whatever. I mean, it's preference of choice. I usually just teleport and use quick warp, so I don't really see the point of using the horses in the game, because you don't really use them as often. You're usually gliding around, climbing mountains or whatever else, so the horses aren't as important as they were in the previous games, or in the couple few games there, but it was just that point. I mean, the horses are there, they can have some use, sure, people like using them, sure, I know some people do use them, absolutely, but I never used the darn horses, so it's, to me, it's kind of I mean, it's cool that they're, add some depth, little bits and pieces of depth to the game, you know, outstanding. But, yeah, it's just that. I mean, it's just not a very good aspect. One of the coolest aspects, I think, of this game, though, bouncing off from negative to positive, though, is actually the terrain, the atmosphere, and the weather conditions in this game, which I want to note, like, on the side here. Is there's things like thunderstorms, blizzards, fog, smog, all these weather conditions in the game, which can affect how you move about in the world. Rain, thunderstorms, they cause sleek rocks, so it's very hard to move and climb up rocks and all that, which is just really cool, actually. As much as it's a pain in the ass, it's cool. But yeah, you basically have that issue where you climb up a rock, and because it's raining, you start slipping and sliding. Your stamina bar, which plays a part in this game, it makes you go whoop. You know, you're sliding down a little bit, so it becomes a balancing act, if you will. Which again, it adds to the challenge and the depth of the game, which I don't mind that at all. Actually, it's a lot better than Skyward Sword's fucking stamina thing. I don't know what the hell that was all about. So they basically added all these mechanics to it, which really brings a realism to the game. Where obviously, yes, it's shell shaded, yes, it's cartoonish, but it adds a lot of breadth to the game, a lot of life to it. Now the worlds are pretty huge in themselves. Like the whole world itself in Hyrule is a large freaking map. It's not as big as Just Cause 2 or Daggerfall or anything like that, but it's definitely really huge. So you'll find yourself trekking across a lot of different planes, finding all sorts of shrines, towers to unlock portions of the map, weapons and towns and people and characters and events, and even world bosses throughout the game. So again, it adds all kinds of crazy bits and pieces of this game that just adds so much depth to the actual world of Legend of Zelda, where a lot of fans probably just prefer that whole story that's told and abrupt, and it goes from, you know, sure, you can explore this open world, but it isn't quite as detailed, it's just straightforward. Which I think Nintendo did a damn good job of, you know, expanding the world as we know it, the world of Legend of Zelda. Now, would I say that this game is perfect in terms of that? It capitalizes quite well on it, and it does it quite well. Would I like to see this in future Legend of Zelda games? I would like to see pieces of the game of this brought into future ones. Would I love to see a Legend of Zelda 3 and all that? Sure, absolutely. But I don't think it's going to be a permanent idea or a fixture, because as much as we like it or not, Zelda usually is a game of ideas where Nintendo likes to juggle them and gamble with them and change up the gameplay from time to time when we just don't expect it, or they do whatever, they use what hardware they have and they go with it. You know, it's just like the makeshift of games, if you will. It's always an evolving masquerade. Usually the gamble always pays off, or it just doesn't. When it comes to this game, I think it absolutely does. Like, I think it's an excellent game where it gives you what you're told of what it's going to give you. It gives you an open world of survival elements. Well, the combat's really fun. The physics in the game are phenomenal. The story's well told. The music's freaking simplistic but amazing. It takes subtle music and sounds, and you can hear it in your ear, and it's just so subtle, but the music is perfect for the surroundings you're in. You're hearing them, you're like, that really helps, you know. It's like really, you hear like little or little horns being played, or chimes, like light little instruments being played, but they're done in a a perfect way. And I say it's perfect, that's out of all the entire game, you can absolutely say the music is perfect because it works so damn well. It brings the atmosphere, the vibe, the situation, the tension. It works. You know, that's where they capitalize the best out of this game, I think, is the music. And the entire environments around you is just really fun to look around and explore. One of the things, the negative bits I want to close out on, though, is this on the back of the box. Now, it's not a huge deal at the end of the day. I mean, if I really wanted to pony up some money for the Wii U Pro controller, then so be it. But they mention this in the back of the box here, and it doesn't have any sort of functionality towards these said controllers, which I was just like, huh? You know, I was confused. So they mention this, that you can use the Nunchuck Wiimote Pro Controller, which it does work. The classic Pro Controller, the Wiimote attached to that, it has to work that way, of course. The Wiimote and the said Wii U controller. Now they have that clearly on the box. You can see that. It just has this really bad chroma key that's punching through. And you can see there, it shows that it can supposedly use all those. So my fat ass got excited about that. And now this is again a small gripe, but it's sort of like either a misprint or I don't know what. But I assumed that you can use this or this. Like, the only functionality these controllers have is when you press the home button on each one of these controllers. That's it. It's the only thing you press on these controllers. And past that, not even the freaking Wiimote works with the said game. Now, I even tried to synchronize it. I tried this, that, and the other thing. Nothing. No response. Doesn't work. Do these work on, like, Smash Brothers or something like that? Absolutely. They work perfectly. Controls work perfectly. It ain't the controllers. Just simply they do not, are not supported for the said game. So if you buy the game thinking that's going to happen that way, it's not. And I don't think it would work out or transition too well anyway because of how the controls are set up. You cannot click in the analog sticks on these, unlike the Pro and the Wii U controller itself. So you cannot actually use that, you cannot use this to run or crawl or anything like that. It ain't gonna work that way. So I mean, I guess it's a mixing in disguise that I guess it's a good thing it didn't quite work. I mean, it would be a decent option, but there'd be probably only 2 things you could not do in the game at all, and I think that would sort of be a hindrance more than a beneficiary. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of a negative thing. It kind of sucks, but you know, I can kind of see why it doesn't work, and it's kind of a good thing because, I mean, sure, it'd be cool because you guys bought these things for basically 2 reasons, probably Monster Hunter or Smash Brothers, but you know, there's no other functionality out of the Wii U version, at least, for this controller or controllers. So I mean, do not get me wrong. I think everyone should have that option of controls if they really want to, but so anyway, would I recommend this game to you if you own a Wii U? Yes, I would. I think the following right now when it comes to the Nintendo Switch and the Wii U. If you already own a Wii U, the game runs great. There's some lag here and there. It's really rare I ever encounter it personally. I usually stream this daily, so again, I don't ever notice any sort of lag whatsoever. The game itself usually runs a full smooth 30 frames per second, so it's just, you know, you don't really notice that at all. The Nintendo Switch version, I've heard some, you know, same people had the same responses, some lag here and there, no big deal. Game still runs great. If you really want to adapt and future-proof your gaming collection, get a Switch, absolutely. If you already own the Wii U, get this and wait on the Switch. I'm only saying that because it's simple. I mean, if you already own the system and you really want to play this game, just get on the damn Switch. You know, it plays great. You know, controls are phenomenal, and at least on the Wii U controller. And this is me really the first time ever using that controller, and I was very comfortable with it. I still am comfortable with it. There's no support on the touchscreen whatsoever other than just to simply play the game on there and have some little flickering, like, you know, pulsing screen saying tap here to play it or whatever, and that's generally it. So it's the only motor function that controller has is just to use it like an actual controller. So I think it's great that they limit the motion gimmick shit on that controller to simply moving it around or using the Wii U controller to, you know, move a bow and arrow, which I don't have a problem with that. I thought that was pretty cool until I turned it off, because I was like, oh, well, this is cool, this is a cool innovation. Turns off, you know, and that's generally the summary of that right there. But yeah, I mean, if you already own the system, just get it for that. Wait for the Switch, wait for some bundle, or wait for more games to come out for the Switch, because unlike the Wii U, I mean, the Wii U did have a damn good collection, and I mean, this is definitely one of those games that should be applied to that said list for sure. There's only been a few negative things I thought about this game, but for the past probably 50 hours plus I've been cranking in this game. It's just a really phenomenal title. Now if you want to purchase it, just go ahead and do it if you own the Wii U. Absolutely recommend it. So that's it for now. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like, leave your feedback if you already played the game. Please try to reduce any sort of spoilers or characters in the comments down below, and take care.